Hey guys, this is Mike Tarallo with Qlik, and in this video I'm going to spend a few minutes talking and demonstrating Smart Search. So Smart Search is our global search tool available in QlikSense. It basically enables you to search the entire dataset, bringing back field values and field dimensions from any sheet within the app. It's available in the selections bar across the top, as you see here. Now, for this particular example, I'm going to use a data set that I'm very familiar with. This is my video game collection, basically comprising of a number of dimensions, time periods, locations, and measures. Now, Smart Search is also part of what we call the associative difference because it brings together all of the relationships and reveals them to you to perform an easy selection, especially when you don't know where to start. So I'm going to jump right into it. I'm not going to get into too much detail. This is identified in our help documentation a little bit further, but I'm just going to jump right into it and show you how it works. So just to give you an idea of the data set that you have displayed here, we have video game platforms, video game developers, video game genres, as well as pricing information and counts of different types of the collected item, whether it's a console, an accessory, or a game. So let's say I don't really know where to start. I do know, however, that I'm looking for games created by the developer Sega of the platform or genre, for example, arcade or possibly platformer or racing or sports. And also I'm interested in the location of where they were purchased. Was it from a store or was it from online like eBay, for example? So without having any selections in front of me, no drop downs or list boxes, etc., I can go right into my Smart Search and start typing in what I know. So for example, I'm interested in games developed by Sega. As I type in Sega, across the list you can see these are all values that match Sega. Sega Master, Sega Dreamcast, Sega Genesis, etc. And then these are all the fields where the value Sega exist. So there's like a separate query, if you will, not an actual relational query, but it's querying the index looking for values and the appropriate field matches. Now, if you're fine with just selecting one of these, I can say, okay, show me everything for the developer Sega. It applies that particular selection and all of my charts update. Another powerful capability of the associative difference. However, in this example, I want to go in deeper and learn more about the relationships within this data. So at this point, I'm going to type in Sega, but I'm going to take it one step further. I'm also interested in, let's say, sports games for Sega. And as I do that, not only do I see a separate query, and you can see the color coding, which is returning values for those fields as a separate query, if you will. And you can see the developer is Sega, but I also have something called EA Sports as a developer. And then you can see there's also platform, as well as a different title for a game called Sports Pad Football, etc. So it's starting to now showing me relationships where Sega exists and also different fields, such as the genre or the title that match the other query. So these are actual relationships. So if I wanted to look at all sports genres for developer Sega, I can collect this. And by clicking that, we basically now have our developer Sega and genre sports selected. And I can see the number of games available, pricing information, etc. Okay, if we take this one step further, I'm interested in Sega games and I'm interested in, let's say, arcade genre, but I'm also interested in the location of where I purchased these, whether it were eBay or online. So I'm just going to start typing in eBay, and you can see the third field now for the relationship has been displayed. So right off the bat, you can see we have the developer, the genre, as well as the store. Okay, and other areas where these queries match. And I could also click Show Me More, and I could dive in a little deeper, and I can see other areas where the word arcade is not only used in genre, but it's also used within a title, like you see here, Star Wars Arcade, or the different platforms that it might be available in. Okay, so for example, Star Wars Arcade, Sega 32X, bought from eBay in the platform Sega Genesis, Sega 32X. Okay, so you can actually start to discover and get clues to make more discoveries that you didn't know existed simply by typing in the words that you know. So by selecting this one now, you can see the three selections are made across the top. And now I'm looking at information from my developer for Sega, the genre arcade, and the store eBay. And at this time, you can also see that the majority of my collection with that selection is now within my Sega CD collection, which I did not know. This is information I did not know because I type in the information in my database, but I don't really keep track of it. That's what QlikSense is doing. So right off of here, this is a discovery that I wasn't aware of. So most of my arcade games, in this case here, for Sega developer that were purchased through eBay exist within my Sega CD collection. Okay, now a couple other things you'll notice we talked about in an earlier video about powers of green, white, and shades of gray. You can see through this progressive disclosure that we have these lines going across the selections. These are hints showing me that these other selections exist in other values. So for example here, related to the Sega selections and the store selections, these are other categories that were purchased in eBay and also developed by Sega, but we are currently not looking at. So if I'm interested in looking at the rest of these, I can select these, or I can say select alternative, and it'll select the other gray values that exist for Sega and eBay, and I can see that information as well. This is what we talk about where analytics is about finding answers and making discoveries. It's not about just presenting data within a dashboard. And this is the power of the associative difference and the power of what global smart search can do for you as well. And you can see this relationship also exists within our stores. Okay, not only did I purchase games that existed for Sega and of the genre arcade at eBay, but I also purchased them at Cybertron Video Games. And by selecting that one, we can see that I've only purchased 6 of those games totaling $84 versus the majority of them, which I've collected 10 of those games, purchasing current collection over $188. Okay, so this is just showing you in here the individual games that have been selected. Again, showing you additional information that is not filtered out that you might not have been aware of by simply exploring the data freely. Okay, so that's my time for this particular video. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you like, share examples of how this works with your data, and I'll make them publicly available if you wish, and we can show others how the global smart search tool has worked for you. Thanks for your time, guys. I'll see you in the next video.